Good morning. Welcome to the newspaper review. My name is Alfonsoh Albakwekwe.
And my name is Esther Adhiambo.
It is cold in the city, and even as you prepare to set your feet out there to go and see what the world has to offer today, we are ready to bring you those stories making the headlines on today's papers. And as we always put it, this is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion.
And of course, this is an authentic touch of the stories making headlines of the newspaper.
And to set the ball rolling, we start with the Standard newspaper and the story making the headline, Ruto dilemma in handling Raila. Now, tough choices. President William Ruto has a decision to make on how to handle the ongoing protests against his government. The opposition, the options he has on the table means he walks a tightrope as the opposition readies to go to the streets again next week. More of that story is beefed up for you on page 4, 5, and page 6 of the Standard newspaper.
Moving on to the national news, suppliers manager defends 216 million property portfolio. You'll find that on the national newspaper, page 3, still on the Standard.
Also, in between a rock and a hard place. Now, President Ruto has about 4 choices to make, and the first one is arrest and prosecute or exile. Members of President's party say the opposition leader should be arrested and prosecuted for demonstrations, but his supporters say it is a right in the constitution. Option number 2 is to ignore the opposition leader. The president can look the other way and let Raila continue with his demonstrations, but businesses leaders say the impact on economy is grave to not stop the protest. The option number 3 that the president has is the dialogue. Calling the Azimio leader to the table is an option, but some demands from the opposition puts the president in a catch-22 position. Number 4 is the handshake and unity government, and the president can invite the opposition leader to government, but creating space for Raila and his team would mean edging out some Kenya Kwanza stalwarts causing infighting.
Moving on, Uganda MP toughens law against gazing.
All right. Also on some business news, senators rail at KP over bills.
Moving on to the sport news, England seek revenge against Italy.
All right, now let's take a look at some of the stories now inside the Standard newspaper.
Powerful farm managers denies corruptly obtaining 216 million. So, Ketrako officially says he did not receive millions of shillings as kickback from constructors, and also anti-graft agencies seek to have all property registered in his name and that of his wife and son forfeited.
All right, let's take a look at page 4 of the Standard newspaper. The Catholic Church and workers push Ruto and Raila to find compromise. Now, Catholic bishops ask President and Azimio to come to some reasonable proposals. Workers' union once more may lose their jobs amid the struggling economy. More of that story on page 4 of the Standard newspaper.
And on page 5, President answers Raila on weekly protests. So, Ruto assures of security, says nobody will be allowed to sabotage businesses, and also Azimio has notified police of planned demonstrations on Mondays and Thursdays.
All right, let's move on to page 7 of the Standard newspaper. Prices of maize and rice to come down in 10 days, says the CS of Agriculture, that is Mithika Linturi. Now, imports of 16 million 90 kg bags of maize and 2.2 million 50 kg bags of rice expected. Agriculture CS urges Kenyans to eat rice more instead of relying on ugali.
And also, like in 2016, weekly protest may leave Kenya's economy worse off. So, experts says Azimio-led demonstration could could complicate an already delicate business environment. And also in 2016, 44% of the business felt the economic condition had worsened.
All right, let's move on swiftly to page 10 of the Standard. Fresh threats to water towers worry experts. Now, there are fears of depletion of ecosystem in Kakamega, Mount Elgon, and Cherangani. The country has at least 5 major water towers that give rise to several vital rivers. More of that story on page 10 of the Standard newspaper.
Moving on to page 12 of the Standard, illegal logging and charcoal trade killing the Congo rainforest. So, corruption, poor governance, and collision by security agents and militia are fueling the depletion of the rainforest. And also, the illicit trade is estimated to around 164 billion per year, with 1.3 million sacks of charcoal from eastern DRC.
Quick fast to page 15 of the Standard. Now, the expert opinion poses a question here. Do you support Cabinet's decision on privatization? Do you support Cabinet's decision on privatization? Evelyn Mukali, a pharmacist, says yes. And on the contrary, Charles Nguna, MP Mwingi West, says no. Their sentiments are on page 15. More of that story, you can get to read it there.
And moving on to the next story, African can reap dividends by learning keenly from China. So, ancient African folk wisdom is usually heavy and anthropomorphism and may not. It sometimes captures contemporary realities with an uncanny, almost prophetic accuracy. Take for instance the popular children's story.
All right, let's move on to some county news, and we take a look at Kwale County now. Residents now make more demands over 25 billion shillings dam. Now, a compensation row between the national government and locals over the proposed 25 billion shillings Mwache Dam appears to have escalated. More of that story is beefed up for you on page 21 of the Standard newspaper.
Now, let's move on to the business, still on the Standard. So, senators turn up heat on Kenya Power over new billing format. So, Senate Energy Committee had summoned the utility firm to explain why bills no longer show a breakdown of charges. And also, the management was, however, a no-show and is due to appear before the House team next week.
More of that story on page 23 of the Standard newspaper. Now, let's shift gears and look at some international news now. Ugandan MPs passed tough law that makes it a crime to identify as gay. Now, homosexual acts are already illegal in Uganda, but this bill introduces many new criminal offenses. The bill will now go to President Yoweri Museveni, who can choose to use his power or sign it into the law. More of that story on international news, page 27 of the Standard.
Let's move on to the next story. Here we still have more of advertisement. Still on advertisement, we have a lot of advertisement here.
Let's shift and look at sports news, maybe.
Yes.
Obituary. Take a look at sports now.
So let's go straight to the sport news. So Amos Kipruto's big dreams: 1 month to London Marathon. So the Kapsabet based athletes with the defending his 2022 title in the UK city on April 23rd. So he will be facing a strong field comprising compatriots and Ethiopian marathoners. You'll find that on page 45 of the Standard.
All right, let's take a look at some more stories now. Newbies, Nia Girls Dare Nyanza Region champions, Nyamira ahead of Siaya finals. Nyachua seek to retain basketball title in Kisii County Championships. New Nia Girls Principal Juma targets hockey and basketball regional slots. More of that story on page 46 of the Standard newspaper.
Moving on the last page of the Standard, we see here England out for revenge as they face Italy. So defending champion Italy will be hoping to start the campaign with a win. So race for Euro 2024 starts today, and team battle in European qualifiers.
All right, let's take a short break. We are coming back with more stories on the Daily Nation paper. Don't go away, because the best is yet to come.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Triple side, kata simu manze. This is Rising Star, the best show in East and Central Africa, au sio manze? So leo manze tuko hapa Kanairo, au sio? I go by the name Alex, or you can call me the guy. So sisi kama Rising Star manze tumekuja na vitu mzuri. Hii mwaka tumeamua tunapiga shughuli safi vile mnataka, hivyo ndio tunapiga hii show, au sio? So kwa Rising Star tutakuwa na segments zingine hatari. Kitu ya kwanza tutakuwa na tea. Tukimalizia show yetu manze tutakuwa tunawaletea tea, what is trending, and then also pale tutakuwa na games. Mnajua nini na games manze? So guest wetu akikam through tutakuwa tunacheza game, alafu pia tutakuwa na ile segment pia ya maswali ya kujua wasanii wetu wametoka wapi, challenges zenye wamekuwa wakipitia, au sio? Yes. Bila kumalizia manze, tunasemaga mnaweza tupata pale YouTube at Younib Media TV, au sio? Yes. So bila kupoteza wakati manze, thank you so much, we love you so much. Continue watching Younib TV, and this is Rising Star. Kaboom. That's it.
Boxes that could reproduce sound were invented.
Welcome back. This is still the newspaper review. So let's see what we have on the Daily Nation. The big news is, will Ruto Raila agrees to talk? So religious leader, including Catholic bishop and Muslim clerics, as well as political business honkers, yesterday urged President Ruto and Mr. Odinga to dialogue and resolve the standoff. But a headline has linked protest to economic sabotage, while opposition chief raised the stake. Will they sit down? You'll find that on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation.
Also, MPs on a coalition course over plan to sell state farms without their nod. That story is on the back page of the Daily Nation.
Yes, so let's see what we have inside the Daily Nation. Here we have they are animals. Mother says of US police officers who killed a bipolar son. So there is here an opinion written by there is here an opinion where Caroline Oko says there was a chance to rescue him. There was a chance to stop what was going on. I don't understand how all system failed him.
All right, more of that story is on page 2 and page 3 of the Daily Nation. Let's move on to page 5. Muslims want demos halted in honor of Ramadan. Supkem tells Azimio and Kenya Kwanza camps to end their grandstanding. More of that story on page 5 of the Daily Nation.
Moving forward on the next story, we see farm snubs MP Sammons in 6 billion telecom buyout probe. Here we have around 60 PC stake in Telecom Kenya. The government repurchased from UK-based private equity firms, Heroic Investment Partners.
All right, let's take a look at some more stories. Let's take a look at what we have on page 12. Death of witness, Hearts case of Akasha dealer. Now, Asif is fighting extradition to US to face charges of supplying drugs to Akashas. More of that story on page 12 of the Daily Nation.
Moving on, we have more of advertisement. Still more advertisement, I think we'll
take a look at
international
news. All right.
So more of international news here. We see British Inquisition, Boris Johnson quizzed by a House of Commons committee. You can find that on page 35. So Uganda MPs returned death penalty for gays. We see here President Yoweri Museveni inspect guard of honor mounted by the military in Kampala, and also Museveni has railed against the West for attempting to impose homosexuality on Africans.
There is also another story in regards to that. Also to be punished heavily are journalists and landlords who rent their premises out to homosexuals. That is happening in Uganda.
Yeah. So let's move straight to the business news. Here we see mega diesel order tips on cost of running SGR trains. So here we are given a statistics. We are 38.4 millions of litre that the Kenya Railways Corporation is seeking to purchase. You'll find that on page 36 of the Daily Nation.
All right, let's take a look at some sports news on the Daily Nation. Today the Daily has more adverts.
Yeah.
All right, now on page 44 of the Daily Nation, top amateurs look for points at Muthaiga. Now, 3 weeks after the conclusion of the 2023 Magical Kenya Open, the PAS 71 Muthaiga Golf Club course will be the game's focus point once again this weekend. The club will host the third Kenya Amateur Golf Championships Series, the Muthaiga Open, that will be off tomorrow. More of that story on page 44.
So still on the sports news, we see Kenya can qualify for 2030 World Cup, says Firat. So Kenya coach Engni Firat has said the government's ambitious dream of Harambee Stars qualifying for the 2030 World Cup is achievable if the team is well prepared.
All right, let's take a look at sports news within this other side. Bungoma's Sudi Stadium crying out for long-awaited renovation. Now, the hosts and visiting teams share a changing room in a small building at the stadium, and there are no proper terraces for spectators. Now, Western Kenya region is well known for producing some of the best football players in the country. In a long-standing tradition, when one generation exits the stage, young blood steps in to fill the shoes for the continuity. More of that story is on page 48 of the Daily Nation.
Let's see what we have on the cover page. You see MPs on a collision course in plan to sell state farms. So here it seems that they are in a debate where a joint sitting of National Assembly and Senate during a special address by President William Ruto in September, that was in last year, and also opposition Azimio coalition has voted to resist the bill when it is tabled in the House.
All right, Mr. Opio Andai says the sale of parastatals is meant to help people in the government who have formed companies in Asia, Middle East, and Europe. Also on the public assets, Kitui Central MP Makali Mulu said public assets cannot be sold without the involvement of people's representatives. More of that story on the cover page of the Daily Nation.
I think that brings us to the end of the today's newspaper review. And yes, we had a question that you had asked earlier concerning our today's big question. Maybe you can repeat it.
All right, it was an opinion that do you support the Thursday and Monday protests? Do you support the Thursday and Monday protests? Now, let's take a look at some of the sentiments that Kenyans have sent in right here. DZD says, ndio muendelee kuuza vitu bei ghali, kwendeni huko kabisa. All right. Stephen Muzembi says, even every day. And then Donald Adhiambo says, maisha imekuwa ngumu zaidi kuliko all regimes of power in this country. Government ni ya kupiga kifua, yet Kenyans are suffering. To me, yes, if it's of better change for tomorrow. Also, Caroline says, he is making us poorer. What's the point when all businesses are closed? When economy was high at Uhuru regime, he did nothing. Also, Ahmed Shafi says, if Kenyans had a chance going through working days would have mattered more to them. Also, if they were paid for the day they come to work instead of this monthly thing, our spent hour of their workplace would have reduced drastically. Also, we have Paul Kemei, who says, at the end of the day, demonstrators went home with bruises, no unga, that is in regards to what happened on Monday, I think, while those calling for demonstrations enjoyed their meals as usual. Some individual properties lost, others are nursing injuries. These sentiments are very many. Let's maybe take a look at the last one. Thomas de Bravia says, those people who are saying that this man means nothing, then you got money. Why don't you share? All right, guys, I think we'll come to an end with the last sentiment there. My director tells me we should be signing out. So thank you so much for choosing to stay with us right here on Younib TV, the best youth television network in East and Central Africa. This has been the newspaper review, and I have been your host, Alfonsoh Albakwekwe.
And Esther Adhiambo. See you again tomorrow, same time, same place.
Bye-bye.